All right, so you might want to get a copy of Executive Order 12829 or 12958, the Classified National Security Information Directive number 1, and the DSS Self-Inspection Manual. It's a good one. Those are references that you can use to back up your training, but most of these reflect the information that's in the NISPOM. Again, the number 1 study material that you should have should be a PDF version of NISPOM that you have on your computer. And if you have 2 screens, even better. Test questions in one screen, NISPOM in the other. All right, so what I'm telling you, the things I want to teach you is that if you apply these principles, your chances of passing will go up. I can't guarantee that you're going to pass a test. I'm not going to give you actual test questions. I just want to show you how to study and prepare for the exam. I'm going to provide practice tests for you in this training. I'll familiarize you with how to search the NISPOM and how to use the find function in a PDF document, and offer some shortcuts for you and some options for these searches. There are no guaranteed search methods. You probably get unsearchable questions in the NISPOM. In the exam. Those questions will not be a word-for-word search. So it's important for you to at least be able to narrow down in NISPOM where the questions are coming from. So it's not meant to fool you. Most of the answers you should be able to deduct by reasonable means. You should be able to not cross out 2 or 3 answers. You're going to need to select multiple choice answers from A to E. So there's 5 choices. You should be able to immediately be able to eliminate a few of those options using these study methods. So we're going to look through the NISPOM table of contents. We're going to look at the searchable PDF documents and maybe look at some keywords. All right. So it's impossible for you to know every piece of the NISPOM. But you know what is possible? It's possible to know that in Chapter 1, you're going to cover NISPOM oversight and how the NISPOM came to be, and those hierarchy organizations that require NISP compliance from the prime contractor. You'll want to know the difference between a cognizant security agency, which is DOD, a cognizant security office, which is for the DOD, the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency for the DOD. Every other one has their own, every other CSE has their own CSO. What the GCA is, the Government Contracting Agency, and that's usually the program office. So these are terms that you're going to need to know, and those are found in Chapter 1. Chapter 1 also appoints the FSO as an official position and describes what it's like. Now, if you're getting security clearance questions, you should know to go to Chapter 2. Security clearances for personnel security clearances and facility security clearances in general are in Chapter 2. So Chapter 2 is security clearances. Chapter 3 is required training, and you're going to learn there about, who, what is the required training that clear contractors should be taking. One is the initial security awareness briefing. The other one is derivative classifier training, insider threat training, annual refresher training. So you keep that in mind, that in Chapter 3, that's where you're going to find out. Chapter 4 is classification markings. Chapter 5 is safeguarding classified material. Chapter 6 is visits and meetings. Chapter 7 is subcontracting, classified subcontracting. Chapter 8 is classified information systems. All right, so if I know this, I can answer most questions in NISPOM. I at least know where to search those questions. And so that's the point you need to get to. Get to know the NISPOM and put it, like I said, in your heart, mind, and soul. And I'll teach you some techniques on how to do that. All right, and so you want to make sure that when you take your practice test, that you make arrangements. If you can have 2 screens, that's fine. If you have one screen, you can just minimize the NISPOM PDF in one screen and your practice questions in another screen. Again, you can use my book that I have out. You can use the ebook version, or you can use, I have a online course, and it's at the end. I do have practice questions that you can bring up, and it's a timed exam, just like you might see at the ISP certification exam. It's a timed 110 questions out of the NISPOM set up in multiple choice, just like you might see in a test incident. All right, so, oops. Sorry about that. I clicked on that hyperlink. I'm trying to advance this course. Hold on. All right, so for the written exam, again, you can use this practice test, or you can use a computer with a laptop, and your electronic NISPOM you can just pull right down. All right, so almost all the test answers can be found in NISPOM. Again, that's the majority of the test. Practice using the searchable NISPOM to get you used to finding things in the NISPOM, and additionally, practice using that table of contents to be familiar with how the NISPOM is organized in case you have trouble finding something, because again, you may not be able to do a direct search. You won't be penalized for failing an elective, as far as I can remember. I'm not sure. You might have to go to the website, but you don't fail sections. You just fail questions overall. Some questions can be answered with a word-for-word search. Some questions can be answered with a topical search, like security clearances, or safeguarding classified material, or international security. Those are large, broad topics that you might be able to search to find the answer that you need when you're using the open book test. Again, the ISOC is not open book. You'll just have to know the NISPOM for that exam. Be familiar with chapter headings and subheadings so you can go right to them and do some research if you actually need to. All right, so this breaks down the NISPOM a little bit. Chapter 1, you know you're going to get questions on NISPOM concerning oversight, policy, government organization, and structures. You're going to be looking at NISPOMs, agencies, NISPOMs, reports. And so I've put in my other courses a hierarchy chart and line and block chart of these organizations and agencies that NISPOM talks about in their oversight, including the ISOO, the National Security Council, all of these things that you might need to know. And including those who contribute to NISPOM, such as the Director of National Intelligence and the the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and those folks who provide information to the NISPOM. They don't fall under NISPOM, but they provide guidance in the NISPOM so that we'll know how to protect it when it comes into the DoD realm. Chapter 2, again, you're going to talk about security clearances. There's going to be facility security clearances, personnel security clearances, reportable information. Chapter 3 is going to talk about that required training, such as insider threat training, which everybody has to take, derivative classifier training, which only people who do derivative classification have to take that test, but everybody has to take the initial security awareness training and the annual security refresher training. So you'll find those guidance in Chapter 3. Chapter 4, we'll talk about how to mark classified materials. So if you get questions on the test about portion markings, page markings, overall markings, top secret, control officer, all these, anything that has to do with marking classified material, no matter what media it is, that will be in Chapter 4. Okay, Chapter 5, I'm going to talk about safeguarding, how to introduce classified information into the system, accountability of classified information, traceability, the storage, transmission, disclosure, reproduction, construction of closed areas and SCIFs, disposition and retention of classified material, intrusion detection, All of that is in Chapter 5. So if you get questions on any of those topics, you should know that safeguarding is in Chapter 5. All right, Chapter 6 is visits and meetings, sponsorships. Chapter 7 is talking about subcontracting, classified subcontracting, where most of NISPOM is about the government providing guidance to the clear defense contractor. Chapter 7 talks about the clear defense contractor as the prime contractor, subcontracting classified work to a subcontractor. So that's all in Chapter 7. Chapter 8 is information system security. So any questions are going about information systems are going to be in Chapter 8. Chapter 9 is special requirements. Okay, we've got RD and FRD. That's by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. CINWITI is by the Director of National Intelligence, and ComSec questions are going to be in Chapter 9. So if you get these weird, wonky classification and things, Chapter 9 might be your best bet. International Security is Chapter 10. We're talking about agreements, treaties, how to work with foreign government information, how to work overseas, and how to ship information overseas. How to do courier, that's in Chapter 10. Chapter 11, you're going to get the miscellaneous information. So that's a small chapter. If you get anything on Tempest or DTIC or IR&D efforts, you only have to go to one chapter to do that. So my recommendation is to take the NISPOM daily and look through the table of contents and do what I did. I can almost do it in my head and see and make it a daily practice to become familiar with the contents of NISPOM. And once you do that every day, after 2 weeks, start looking at each individual chapter and look at headings and subheadings so that you know which part of Chapter 3 talks about insider threat training, which part of Chapter 3 talks about reporting, or Chapter 2. And so become familiar with that so that you can walk in confidently that you don't need to do research or search that NISPOM, that you walk in confidently that you can answer those NISPOM questions. Okay, so the following slides, I'm going to show you how to do a search on the NISPOM in case you don't know. A lot of people just don't know this information. Some of you know it. You won't get a searchable PDF, but you'll get a searchable NISPOM document when you take your test. It's an open book test. You need to go in relaxed and able to take a deep breath and have that confidence that you can pass a test. You can pass a test. You're not even supposed to register for exam unless you have 5 years of experience. So most of you do have that 5 years. I'm gonna turn this light on because it's getting darker outside. Most of you do have that 5 years experience. And so you just need a little confidence that will help you pass the test. All right, so again, these are places, this link right here, BennettInstitute.com, where you're taking this training right now, there is a link to in-depth NISPOM training where you can become familiar with the NISPOM and its nuances and know it goes chapter by chapter. Red Byte Publishing, we have resources such as DoD Security Clearance and Contracts Guidebook, which reflects a NISPOM, as well as the ISP certification exam manual.